Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy JD. I hope you've all had a great day. I hope you've all had a great weekend. In today's episode, I'm going to be doing a format I haven't done in quite some time, a couple of weeks now, where I sit down and discuss a few internet topics that I've seen that I think you guys need to see as well. You guys seem to love this longer format, so here I am. Also, happy October. Time flies, doesn't it? It also means Halloween season is fast approaching, which also means things are going to get very odd, creepy and disturbing. It's going to be a great time. But firstly, we're going to be taking a look at this woke activist who is going viral, Jonathan Van Ness, because they tried to justify why men should be competing in women's sports. Yes, apparently we're still trying to have that debate. Secondly, we'll briefly take a look at this story coming from the Navy, because apparently now Navy personnel have to address themselves with pronouns, the most important thing. And as I say that, our enemies are getting ever so frightened. Yeah, then we're going to be taking a look at Donald Trump, because once again, he's going viral for mocking the current president of the United States of America. Then lastly, Emma Raducanu is making the headlines for apparently saying women don't need men to become financially successful. Yeah. Now, before we carry on with this, if you could, make sure to leave a like rating. If you're new, hit that subscribe button. We're on the road to 60k. Also, turn on bell notifications so you never miss a video of me speaking out against today's madness. What's not to love, huh? But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's get into this one. So as we know, women's sports has become a hot topic within the culture right now because of the issues it has been facing and still is facing, specifically with men identifying as women, crossing over into the women's side of things and then taking places awards away from women when that individual shouldn't be competing in the women's side of things in the very first place. This is why we're now seeing more and more policies put in place in England and America to protect women, which is paramount also to keep the sport fair. However, with all this positive movement, good policies put in place, it still doesn't stop. As we know, woke activists coming out all the time trying to justify, make an argument as to why men should be competing against women. We have Jonathan Van Ness, who is making the rounds now for this video that they posted on their social media. And I believe this comes as they were on a podcast with a guy called Dax Shepard. And this guy, Dax Shepard, is now being hit by the woke activist after he just slightly questioned this person's opinions, especially around the whole women and men competing against each other. So we have this video from Jonathan Van Ness in response to this whole thing going on right now. Take a watch.
Let's talk about transphobia in sports. There's so many conversations around trans inclusion in sports. We have state houses all over the United States that are passing bills to make sure that no trans kids are allowed to play sport at any level in their state. The science we have now says that transgender women do not hold an unfair biological advantage over cis women. So that's what the science says. But let's just say, you know, now what so much of the rhetoric is as well, if someone has gone through a male puberty and they've ever experienced that male puberty, then they will always be unfair to play women's sports, and we have to protect women's sports, so we can't have anybody who's experienced a male puberty in women's sports if it's a trans woman. So okay, let's say that that's true, even though the science does not support that, but let's say that that is true. So now though, we have in dozens of states in the United States that have outlawed gender affirming care for trans kids. So if there was a young trans girl who let's say wanted to be a figure skater or a gymnast or a golfer or whatever the hell, she wouldn't be able to access the hormone blockers that would make it so that she would not go through a puberty. So do you see how we have governments and then we have governing bodies of athletics that are making it so trans people can't play sports anyway? But not only has trans women been able to play tennis and swim for the last 2 decades, how many Olympic trans tennis players or swimmers can you think of? Exactly, 0. When I was growing up, I got to play sports. And when I played those sports on teams, I learned about rejection. I learned about how to overcome an obstacle. I learned how to work together. I learned people skills. And when we take away the rights of kids to play sports with their peers, where you learn about that sort of thing, we're doing a huge injustice to trans kids for just not letting them play. I mean, this is not only about Olympic medals, it's also about society and about allowing people to learn and grow together and to not bully people. And we are literally legalizing bullying against trans kids under the guise of protecting girls' sports. So this is so much all wrapped up in transphobia. And also, by the way, if your state house has passed a bill against trans inclusion in sports, What's your property taxes like? What's your energy grid like? What's your day-to-day life like? The amount of energy that we've spent on legislating against trans people, we have much bigger problems than allowing trans kids to play sports. So that's why I think we should allow trans people to play sports.
You see, as soon as you say the science now shows us that trans women, men identifying as women, have no physical advantage over cis women, which, by the way, they're just women. There's no need to put the cis on the end, classic woke language. But as soon as you say that, what is the point in listening to? I mean, nobody should be trying to listen to this argument anyway, because there is no justification, but there is no science to back up that claim. When you say that, it's like you're trying to say it so when people hear it, they just automatically believe you. Oh, by the way, did you hear this creator say on TikTok that now the science says trans women have no physical advantage over women? That's simply not true, though, is it? That goes against the facts. Men will always be physically stronger. They will have the physical advantages, whether it's their frame, having larger organs like the heart, the lungs, having stronger bones, more muscle mass. Those things you can't get rid of no matter how many times you want to try and, shift the goalpost. Those are the facts. And as Ben Shapiro always says, facts seem to not care about your feelings. And all what followed that really is nothing. They mentioned the things like bullying. Apparently it's bullying now to put policies in place to protect women. They also say trans people are being banned from sports when, again, that isn't correct. They're just now required to compete in the correct category. They then bring up the kids issue with this. Apparently these policies are affecting kids who identify as XYZ, a boy who identifies as a girl, for example. That's a whole nother issue in itself. That issue shouldn't be pushed for or advocated for in any way, shape or form. And I think they've included this with their apparent argument to try and justify men competing against women to emotionally guilt trip people, because when people hear the kids aspect, they might start to feel sorry for certain people. Oh, maybe, if the kids are being affected, we should allow it to happen. Maybe, just maybe, boys should compete against girls. That's all it's there for. But if you want to talk about bullying, if you ever see an event that, let's say, Riley Gaines turns up to, a lot of what she experiences and other people experience is pretty heavy. And they experience that for standing up for the truth. They experience that bullying for saying, no, women deserve the right to compete against only women. They deserve the right to feel safe. The sport needs to be fair. It's funny how that all works, isn't it? So when I hear people say, oh wait, no, men should be competing against women because of obviously how they feel, that to me says you don't care actually about women's safety and protection and keeping the sports fair. You just care about whatever agenda. Once we start to go down this path, or people want us to go down this path in abandoning the truth, the reality, which sports, not only sports by the way, is based on, but the whole world, then obviously we start to go down a road which isn't actually a positive thing for society, because how can it be when you abandon those core values? You abandon core values and you replace them with certain other agendas. Of course, it's going to be a negative, a net negative for the whole world in the long term. But again, with this issue, people don't seem to think long term. They think short term. It's always short term happiness, right? Because if they had their way, they'd had everybody competing against each other wherever and whoever they are. And then we get into the long term and you would see the erasure, the erosion of women's sports. But that thought just doesn't cross their minds, because it's always the agenda. But now we move swiftly on to this article that when I first saw this, I tell you now, the first thing I got from it was our Navy is in the right mindset. They're doing the right things right now and they're ready for anything that can happen. And they've put all of these moves in place to frighten our enemies, because I tell you now, when they see this, they don't want any of us. Nothing at all. The Telegraph go on to report, Navy personnel told to introduce themselves with pronouns in trans guidance. The Navy staff have been urged to avoid microaggressions and to keep constantly educating and researching about trans matters. It's nice to see they're using their time ever so wisely. Royal Navy personnel are being told to introduce themselves with their pronouns before meetings, an official guidance seen by the Telegraph. A guide on trans and non-binary awareness tells staff introducing yourself with your pronouns at the start of meetings and interactions is a good way to be inclusive. There's the lovely buzzword. The guidance available on the Royal Navy intranet says some people do not associate with gender binary and may use different pronouns like they/them or neo pronouns like ze/her/him What is that? You should use the pronoun that a person shares with you that can change at any minute. Navy staff are urged to avoid microaggressions like backhanded compliments and unhelpful tips, and to keep constantly educating and researching about trans matters. The Royal Navy advertised Ministry of Defense diversity events for staff to attend on its intranet page for National Inclusion Week. The MOD encouraged staff to actively participate in as many events as possible. Now, I tell you, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm sure you're all thinking the same, this is definitely what, let's say, China are worried about. You know, they are teaching the military to use the pronouns. They address each other. Oh, hi, they / them, z / her. How are you doing today? They're definitely worried about. Of course, they aren't. Only we would be worried about this issue. Only we would be concerned with woke ideology in the Navy, because if you use the wrong pronouns in this scenario, it would upset somebody. Now, I don't think it's wrong of me saying this, but if you're in the Navy, the military, and you're concerned about somebody using the wrong pronouns, to me, that says you don't have a lot of mental strength. So when I say that, I think that does fill a lot of people watching right now with a lot of reassurance that we have the best people in these positions who are mentally resilient. Imagine being out there in the wars and somebody uses the wrong pronouns and you start crying on the battlefield. I can honestly see that happening in the next few years. So when things do eventually go south, we are in definitely the best hands, ladies and gentlemen. I just don't get this. I really don't. All jokes aside, there is no need to do this. Like, it just isn't. It seems like every walk of life now there has to be some sort of inclusivity, diversity, whatever buzzword. We have to address the pronouns, use the pronouns. The most important things in life. Also, I'm told, apparently. So the US election in 2024 is fast approaching. As I said at the beginning of this video, it's already October, so this will come about in no time at all. And I don't think it's only America watching to see what happens. The whole world is. I will be, especially. Many people are going to be, because we all understand this is going to be one of the most important elections for quite some time because of the state America has got itself in. As we know as well, Donald Trump will be running to be the next president of the United States of America, although there are certain people out there trying to pull out all the stops to make sure he doesn't. But recently on stage, Donald Trump gave a speech that is getting a lot of social media attention because it proves he certainly does have a career, if he doesn't make it, to be the next president in stand-up comedy. Just take a watch.
Does anybody think he's going to make it to the starting gate? I mean, the guy can't find his way off of a stage. Look, here's the stage. Here's the stage. I've never seen this stupid stage before, right? I've never seen it. But if I walk left, there's a stair. And if I walk right, there's a stair. And this guy gets up. Where am I? Where the hell am I?
The thing is, as hilarious as that is, it's actually true when you think about it though, isn't it? And I think it's probably why it's more funny when Trump turns around and just looks back. Insane. We've all seen Joe Biden on stage and what he's like. He makes a blunder every single time. It doesn't even have to be on stage at this point. We all see him just tripping up. His sentences not making any sense whatsoever and not knowing how to get off the stage. He's looking left and right. This is the person who is in one of the most powerful positions in the world. It's not a great reflection, is it? When first and foremost, you can't galvanize your nation, the people watching, with your speeches because all anybody does is laugh at you, then you automatically have a big issue. And not only that, not only what he does visually, but behind the scenes, what he hasn't done to benefit America and what they've done, the administration at this point has done to negatively affect America with whatever situation is going on in the world. And yet, with everything that's gone on over these past 4 years, liberals will still go out there and vote for Joe Biden. That will be their number one vote. That's who the left will vote for. Unless, I don't know, Michelle Obama runs. Maybe that will be definitely interesting. But I think we're all just hoping, and I say this truthfully, I think we're just all hoping because I don't think any of us could take another Joe Biden term, and we don't even live in America. We're just hoping America does the right thing, okay? I'm hoping they elect anybody but a Democrat. I really am. But leave your thoughts down below, ladies and gentlemen, on who you would like to see maybe become the next president of the United States of America. But moving on to our last and final story. Emma Raducanu, a tennis star who famously won the US Open, just appeared in a HSBC advert that is all about saving money and making money, obviously targeted at the younger generations. And this advert couldn't go plain sailing, couldn't have anything tied to it. 2023, so they must include something. And in this advert, Emma Raducanu says she supports the woke rewriting of fairy tales and the princesses not needing the Prince Charming. Emma Raducanu has backed a reimagining of a classic fairy tale which writes out Prince Charming and a lesson to girls that they don't need men to achieve financial success. Appearing in a video for HSBC in which she reads from Fairer Tales, a book by Emma Dodds published in 2018, the one-time tennis Grand Slam champion urged youngsters to make money for themselves. Miss Dodds' alternative take on the stories of Cinderella, Sleeping Beauty and Rapunzel all but writes out the stock character of Prince Charming from the narratives. Rather than running off to wed the wealthy prince, the protagonists instead make their own fortunes by starting their own businesses or investing. The stories include Cinderella making a fortune off of inventing her own sports shoe, and Rapunzel becoming a property mogul after cutting her hair and using it as a rope to escape her tower, which she then re-innovates and lets for income. Sleeping Beauty benefits from 100 years interest on her pocket money savings during her slumber after she is awoken by Prince Charming ringing the doorbell, telling him, "I don't need a kiss because all your noisy ringing has already woken me up, and I'm certainly not going to marry you. We've only just met." Cinderella, meanwhile, is advised by a fairy godmother that she does not need to marry a prince to get away from all of her chores. Rapunzel's business ventures are so successful that she is able to invest in Cinderella's shoe company, in which she buys shares. Miss Raducanu concludes her narration saying Rapunzel is now a free woman who earns a lot of money and is able to live well. She even has some spare money which she can use to buy a share in Cinderella's new and exciting sports shoe business. Cinderella, Sleeping Beauty and Rapunzel are all successful young women. They have used their brains, imagination and good sense to earn enough money to look after themselves without a Prince Charming in sight. So this has all come about, I imagine, because of the woke Snow White remake that is going on right now. I'm sure most of you have heard about that news, the news surrounding Rachel Zegler, her personality and how she completely destroys the original story, as Disney have also destroyed the original story because it's too old-fashioned. They don't need a Prince Charming. But in this case, with Emma Raducanu, I do find it interesting that she does support this message, which she's probably getting paid a lot for, right? So who knows if she actually supports it. It could be just a massive virtue signal, but would judge it from face value. It's interesting she supports that. She says women don't need essentially men to become financially successful, but didn't she have a male training her? Didn't a male train her at the time when she won her US Open? Now, unless you actually remove all men from society, which I guess some people would like, who knows, if you remove all men from buying and consuming, how does one expect to become financially successful regardless if you're male or female? That doesn't make any sense. Men also need women to become financially successful. And we hear this sort of rhetoric all the time. You know, it's interesting the contrast really, because on social media you see a lot now of these red pill gurus, these crackpots, whatever they are. I don't agree with most of the message they put out. I think they just do it to divide people, as do the mainstream media. But they say, oh, men don't need women. You can do it all alone, king. You don't need a woman. Yet in the mainstream media, it's interesting. They say, oh, women don't need a man. What I do find funny is when you grow up and you become more mature and you forget all the noise coming out from, society's agendas that they're putting out, you start to learn men and women do actually need each other. And when you forget all of these agendas that are going on, when a man and woman comes together, they support each other, they help each other, they grow, it can be one of the most beautiful things. That would be controversial to say in 2023, wouldn't it? Because red pill people would hear that and say, oh, no, this guy's a simp. You can't have women in your lives. And then the mainstream media would be like, no, that is very sexist because women don't actually need men. That's the state we're in. The division between men and women is so purposely done. It's so obvious to see, yet people still get involved in all of this stuff. Crazy, crazy times. But that is the end of this video, ladies and gentlemen. Please make sure to leave a like rating if you have enjoyed. Also, I just want to say now, all the new people that have just subscribed recently, thank you so much. You guys are amazing. You help us get to the next milestone, 60K, then it's 70K, 80K, 90K, 100K, and we keep going on and on and on. I love your support so much again, so thank you. If you are new, by the way, and you still haven't subscribed, make sure to hit that subscribe button. I don't want you to get left out. Turn on bell notifications so you never miss a video. Share this video as well. But until next time, it has been your boy JD. Have a great day. Stay safe. And I'm out. Peace.